name's Kevin Talbot. I'm a clinical neurologist, which means I see patients, but I also do scientific experiments in the laboratory with my team, and we're interested in the problem of motor neuron disease. I'm also head of the Nuffield Department of Clinical Neurosciences. So motor neuron disease, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, is probably best thought of as not one single condition. And although it looks the same to the doctor, underneath all of that there are many different complex biological mechanisms. Some people have a single genetic error, which clearly is the cause of their condition, but even in those people, they have to live for many decades before that disease becomes manifest. And that tells us that even with a simple genetic cause, many other factors, principally those associated with getting older, have to come into play. So it's a combination of, in every patient, of genetic factors and some aspects of the aging process, and perhaps some environmental factors which we certainly are less clear in our understanding of. Motor neurons as cells, they are fascinating biological cells. They're extremely long, large, highly energetic. So I became interested in the basic problem as to why a cell like this can fail. So the way that we approach this is we try and model the disease in the laboratory. We're using principally cellular models, so we are growing motor neurons either from animal models or from humans. People from my clinic give a skin biopsy, we reprogram these into stem cells, and we then differentiate them into motor neurons. And we can therefore have cells from a patient who has a disease in the lab, and we can study the basic function of the cell. Is it what areas are undergoing stress? Can we provoke cell death, or the pathology that we see in the brains and spinal cord of patients, can we reproduce this in the lab? Once we feel we've got a model that seems to have some relevance to the disease, the next thing we want to do is to find drugs which might actually reverse some of those changes, provide some equilibrium, and those drugs then might be applicable to our patients. People may think that motor neuron disease is incredibly rare, and in fact, in a population of 100,000 people, only 2 per year in that population will develop the disease. But because it's an age-dependent problem, the lifetime risk of getting motor neuron disease is between 1 in 300 and 1 in 400, making it the third commonest neurodegenerative disease after Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Many people think that motor neuron disease, that the typical form of motor neuron disease is that suffered by Stephen Hawking, the famous theoretical physicist. In fact, he was extremely unusual in that he lived for 40 or 50 years after the diagnosis. Unfortunately, for most of my patients, the disease will shorten their life within a few years. So the most exciting advance in the field at the moment is that people with specific genetic mutations, there are 2 genes which account for about 60% of all the cases that have a genetic mutation. So there are now treatment trials in progress of antisense oligonucleotide therapy, small bits of DNA that antagonize the genetic mutation in some way, block it. And those trials are beginning to show promise. They're beginning to show that we might be able to modify the disease in those people in whom a genetic mutation is the cause. The most exciting way in which that might develop over the next 5 to 10 years is that we might start applying those therapies to people who are carrying the genetic mutation and have not yet developed the disease, and thereby providing a preventative treatment. We are very excited to be part of the Kavli Institute because the time is right now for understanding what's happening inside the cell at the most detailed level. In order to do that, we need to bring together biological science, physical science, chemists, engineers. We need to understand what is happening within that universe, which is a cell, in real-time things. So understanding the cell at the most minuscule level is the key to unlocking the cause of disease.